For our first story, we have my 30 male wife, 32 female, tested positive for link. Have been married for roughly 10 years at this point. Things haven't been great the past few years, but we are both actively working on making our relationship better. She springs on me today that she just got word from her doctor that she tested positive for BV and, more significantly to me, chlamydia. Cue the, do you have anything you need to tell me? I, genuinely, have never touched another person during our relationship. She says the only two ways she would have gotten it is if I was unfaithful, no, or that she borrowed her friend's sex toy back in December. I have not been tested yet, however after searching online I do have symptoms in line with chlamydia. I've been sick lately so I was just chalking it up to that, but I guess not. She said the doctor said a BV swab can show a false positive for chlamydia, so she is getting retested in a few days, but after connecting the dots I would be very surprised if it was a false positive. I desperately want to believe that this is a mistake or because of the sharing of sex toys, very strange to me, but I'm not female so I don't know. I wish I was more confident, but things have been hit or miss for the past few years as we are working out issues. She has, in the past few months, become increasingly attached to her phone. Posting numerous stories on Snapchat per day, messaging people on Snapchat, etc. At this point I fear I'm just overanalyzing, but I'm not sure where to go, what to do from here. Obviously I'm hoping for a false positive, but given my symptoms I don't have much hope there. Is it possible to get it from sharing sex toys? Is that a thing people do? Update. Sorry for not updating or responding. This is a throwaway account OBVS and it's a bit of a pain for me to go back and forth. To answer some questions. This isn't AI, WTF. She accused me, asking if I had anything to tell her. She seemed very angry, then suddenly switched to very sorry, then slightly annoyed-ish and has remained that way so far. I have not made any accusations or reciprocated the question. Yes, I have an appointment to get myself tested tomorrow, so we will see how that goes. No, we have not been in contact with any koalas. Her friend is a female. She at first said, it was either you or female friend. I was unhappy with that, as she's joked about girl before and I did tell her I considered that cheating. She shortly afterwards clarified that she had been drinking and borrowed one of her sex toys. I haven't asked for further details yet. We have always had a great sex life, we have children, cars, house, etc. together. It would be extremely difficult to untangle our lives, not to mention very financially impactful. I guess I am clinging onto the hope that this is somehow not what it very obviously seems to be. It has been years since I've been tested, never felt the need to as I'd never been unfaithful, nor had I had any glaringly obvious symptoms. Update 1.5-ish. Not sure how many times I can update a single post within the rules, but I'll keep going until I get stopped or have something significant enough for another post. First off, I got tested first thing this morning. According to the lab, it will take 2 to 3 days to get the results back. Second, another big red flag to me in afterthought, is why, assuming the false positive was a possibility, would she not immediately schedule a retest instead of waiting days for her next appointment? Third, I've seen some comments about dormancy. We've been together for 10 years, that seems like an exceptionally long time for both of us to be asymptomatic. Additionally, we have children together. To my understanding, she would have been tested during each pregnancy. It was never mentioned or brought up and I was at 99% of the appointments. This leads me to the conclusion that she contracted it sometime after she had our last child. The two scenarios left are that she cheated with another man, and wholly lied about the sex toy incident, or there is more to the sex toy incident than what is being told. I am refraining from any questioning or accusations until my test results come back. It will be easy enough to verify if her friend gave it to her, as there's a relationship on that end that would be ruined if that were the case. I appreciate all the comments, some helpful some not, but all have made me think very critically about this situation and what the true ramifications are. That's the end of our first post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, women do not share sex toys unless they are a couple. Like that is an absolutely preposterous excuse. Our second commenter says, oh she 100% cheated OP. Maybe even 200%. The fact she even came up with the sex toy story is a red flag that she knows exactly how she got it and will never tell you. I'd tell her you're leaving her unless she comes clean. When she does, leave her anyways. Our third commenter says, the only way I can realistically see two women sharing a sex toy is if they were using it together. For our second story, we have, my husband, 35 male, is acting as if he was a romantic teenager who lives in a fairy tale, and I, 34 female, fear for our link husband always acted like a pretty objective man. Someone you could always count on to give you a straightforward answer even if the answer would be a bit harsh. A realistic man, I guess. I really like this about him as I'm usually idealistic or optimistic. Well, for a while now, my husband has been taking some questionable financial decisions. For example, I have an expensive hobby I hadn't partake in for years because it is expensive and done in groups of 2 or more people. He decided he wanted to start it as well and he loved it, so I'm happy this is something else we could share, but he started wanting to do it almost every weekend and, to be honest, we can't afford it. So I had to be the one to tell him that. But okay, it was a one-time thing. No biggie. Then, my iPhone's battery was getting shitty and it would only hold around 15 minutes without it being charged. I found a used one we could afford and bought it. He decided he also needed to change his phone, even though his battery was working just fine, and wanted to buy the most expensive one in our country. I was against this as it is expensive as hell, but he told me I was being a bad partner and not supporting him, so he bought the phone. Then I decided to enroll in a course that could help me get more job opportunities, and he decided he needed a new gaming PC. His old one worked fine and still works fine. It is as powerful as my gaming PC that is able to run all the games we usually play. I once again told him to think if this was a need and he once again told me I wasn't being supportive. So he bought the PC. A few months ago he was having a hard time at his job and he got home saying he would ask to be let go. I asked him to reconsider as we are paying the installments of our home. I asked him he could have a talk with his superior and ask for help or advice, but I begged him not to ask to be let go. He agreed to talk to his boss and ask for suggestions on how to deal with the issue and then, behind my back, ask to be let go. Luckily his boss pretended not to notice it and everything worked out in the end. By now, I was getting worried. He had asked me to cover his part of the bills a few times, and I did. I asked him for us to talk about money and see where it was going, and he acted as if me ordering food was the only issue. I later found out he was giving his mom money she doesn't need, while I was starving myself to cover his part of the bills. I told him how betrayed I felt and he told me all I thought about was money. I told him someone had to think about it and he wasn't, and he insisted I wasn't a supporting partner and that I should have supported him in all his spendings and in asking to be let go of his job. This just feels so surreal for me. Am I being unreasonable? He says that even if we had to live under the bridge, he'd go with me, but truth is, I don't want to live under a bridge. I worked my ass off to be able to afford myself a good home. The way he talks sounds a lot like me when I was 15, but we are both in our mid-30s. I can't imagine someone saying this as if it isn't something to worry about. Am I out of touch with reality? That's the end of our second post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, "Oh honey. I skimmed your post history. Why have you stayed so long with this manipulative person? I know leaving is super hard, trust me, I've had to do it myself. But it's so worth it. Leave for your future self. He's not going to change and hasn't changed in any way other than getting worse if your post history says anything." Our second commenter says, "Oh honey, please leave this man alone, he will ruin your finances and you will always be stressed and angry." Our third commenter says, "Why is he giving his mom money she doesn't need, and simultaneously asking you to cover his bills?" For our last story, we have, update. I, female 44, hired an investigator and have discovered my husband's, male 47, affair and sex addiction. What on earth do I do next? This is an update to my original post from around a month ago. Link, advice, comments, 1HLFLHA, I, F, 44, hired an investigator and have discovered, link. Firstly, I'd just like to thank, almost. Closing parenthesis exclamation mark. Every single one of you who has commented to leave me advice or message me privately. I took a lot of advice on board, especially legally speaking, and this has proven to be of great benefit. I apologize for my long absence and lack of replies. I hope the update below can explain it. I chose to wait until after New Year's as I did not want to rob the children of one last Christmas and New Year's holiday as a family. In the meantime, I researched solicitors and sought recommendations from trusted friends. Rather humiliatingly, I did, after much urging on this website, also schedule and go through with an STI test. It was horrifically embarrassing, but I am relieved to say that it came negative. I don't know how I could have coped if he had gotten me sick because of his revolting actions. He made my job incredibly easy by flying out for a work trip, not that anything he says could ever be trusted, on the 2nd, and I immediately got the ball rolling. Met with the solicitor, packed up all of his belongings into 6 suitcases, had the locks changed, and spoke to a child psychologist to work out the best way to explain things to the kids, who are far too young to understand the full picture, of course. Fast forward to a week later, and upon his return I, having made sure the children were picked up by my mother after school, greeted him to a hallway full of suitcases and divorce papers. I had printed out the report in full and started walking him through it before he started breaking down in tears. It was a compulsion, he was unbelievably stressed, and that if I left him he would have not choice but to marry the other woman, whereas he would end it immediately if I were to take him back. This last part was truly the nail in the coffin. I don't think he even realized just how manipulative a comment that was to make. After hours of a back and forth and of his groveling, he gave up. He was left at the bottom of the stairs in the entrance to our home with his suitcases, waiting for a cab to take him to God knows where. There is still a lengthy legal process ahead, and unfortunately, it turns out that him being unfaithful etc. doesn't really impact how assets might be divided following the legal battle. However, I'm confident that my solicitor will get the outcome I need to keep the house and live independently. In terms of the children, I would rather not discuss them so as to keep it private, but it has been an incredibly difficult adjustment and sometimes I do feel guilty. As for myself, I am still completely heartbroken and frankly I don't ever hope to find love again. I just don't think I can quite trust like that again. Finally, I'd just like to add that while most comments have been lovely and supportive, I did get a number of comments and private messages blaming me for my soon-to-be ex-husband's behavior, claiming I did not give him sufficient sexual attention and that I shouldn't complain because he provided me with a certain lifestyle. Firstly, these comments are awful and betray a repulsive worldview with regards to sex, intimacy, and marriage. Secondly, our ailing sex life was not my doing and was, at times, and criticism I myself had of our relationship, not the other way around. Thirdly, just because someone provides you with a lifestyle, doesn't entitle them to treat you as if you're nothing, with no respect and no honesty. I would have hoped all would be aware of that. That's the end of our last post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, "Awesome job, OP." Our second commenter says, "Hours of groveling? What a sorry reaction. Anyways, I'm glad he didn't get you sick, and I hope the best for you and your kids as you move on." Our third commenter says, "What a ridiculous thing for him to say. You have to stay or it will be your fault. I married this skank I've been fucking. All I can say is I'm so sorry. Also get ahead of him and put in custody agreement that this woman is to have no contact with your children until they reach the age of 18 and decide for themselves if he chooses to stay with her, as she is 50% of the reason they're in need of therapy. But if he meets someone else, same with you. The relationship needs to be going strong for over a year before any introduction. Keep those kiddies safe." That's all for today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.